Teachers, celebrities, and filmmakers love to use the following phrase: "We are all in this together." When will humanity learn that we have to end wars and spread love? I can tell you when: never. World peace is an illusion because everyone has a different opinion on how a perfect world would look like. If you are a politician, you will never be liked by everyone. If you redistribute lots of money to the poor, the working class will be mad because they have to pay higher taxes. If you don't distribute any money to the needy, they will become unsatisfied and maybe even become aggressive. There is no perfect solution for everyone. Now, Reupload made a video in which he complained about the oofy doofy. He hasn't given any definition of what an oofy doofy is, but from the context of his video it seems like it is an unattractive, unsuccessful, kinda blue-pilled guy that's either unemployed or in a bad paying position. Reupload now wonders why those men aren't fighting against the system.
People's ability to take BS without rebelling and revolting. How many times, guys, how many times we thought, oh, that wouldn't happen, not a chance. People wouldn't let that go that far. But when you look at it now, the worst has happened. The worst. You shouldn't overrate the oofy doofy. Oofy doofy is a pitiful being, bruh. Nor should you expect much from them. The most they did, a couple days of protesting in the godforsaken small towns of the UK. And they went back to their football games to cheer for the oofy doofy United.
In Reupload's mind, we should go back to the social order of the 1950s.
But re-establishing the social landscape of 50s is the second part of tackling this issue.
He admits that it is unlikely that this will happen, but he obviously believes that this would improve society. In his opinion, the reason why we are not re-establishing the rules of the 50s is that oofy doofies are too lazy to protest and start a civil uprising. Here is my answer why men aren't protesting: we have the most comfortable lives that ever existed in human history. Reupload even admits that oofy doofies will never find true love.
The real answer: having a family that depends on them. A family that they can go to after a long day at work, knowing that they are gonna get some action, even if it is once a week. I mean, you can't set the bar too high for the oofy doofy. I would say getting action every night, but come on, man. This is the oofy doofy we are talking about. Every night would be too much, but even once a week would have been enough. But now that social contract is broken.
So what exactly would they be fighting for? Being with a wife that hates them, gaslights them, and cheats on them? If you can't get a girl the natural way, why would you think getting a girl by societal pressure will make you happy? In today's society, a guy can pay for sex and watch porn. Is that worse than being in a loveless marriage? Why is he portraying being with a woman that hates you as some sort of win? And you also have to consider that most men would fight against the inkwell revolution. I, for example, would rather kill some inkwells and thereby reducing competition than to fight for a traditional society. Also, every guy with a girlfriend will fight on my side, every man that has a daughter, every successful guy that is benefiting of the current system, and every woman. And here is another major point. Most oofy doofies had a relationship at some point in their life. They aren't glorifying relationships like inkwells do. Being with a person isn't just fun and sex, it's also a lot of work and sometimes annoying. It's also a psychological issue. If you ever had a girlfriend, you can be reasonably sure that some other girl might like you as well. That's why many guys don't see the need for a system in which women have no choosing rights or are dependent on men. There is a certain amount of the population that is losing in today's society. Those are men that are below average in intelligence and below average in looks. However, this group holds almost no power. Everyone else is doing fine historically speaking. We don't have to go to war, we have enough to eat, we are reasonably safe. The standard of living is high, that's why men aren't sacrificing themselves for some incel uprisings. There are only two scenarios in which a traditional society would be implemented. The first scenario would be by force, like in Afghanistan. In that case, many men would die, and the chances of the oofy-doofies whining are low. The other scenario is extreme suffering, like in the Weimar Republic, when people had nothing to eat, crime was at an all-time high, and even child prostitution was happening. But nobody is throwing his life away just to get into some forced marriage with some bitch that is nagging on him. By the way, animals are just the same. If you ever saw cats fighting, you might have noticed that they are actually not fighting at all. They just yell at each other for half an hour. Because in the end we all want to live, and every animal is programmed to take as little risks as possible. In other words, it would make no sense for an average 4 out of 10 guy to start some kind of movement in which women get stripped of their rights. And I know that it sucks to be an incel, and of course it's a desperate situation with lots of emotional pain, but it's not life-threatening. It's not a cancer diagnosis. Don't make it bigger than it is. Most incels won't risk their life for an arranged marriage. I think the biggest supporters of the traditional society theory are the incels that never had anything. No kiss, no sex, no girlfriend, no job, and now they think, oh, if I only had a wife I would suddenly be a hardworking, successful person. No, you would still be a loser, just with some bitch complaining all day. You can force her to be with you, but you can't force her to like you. That's the problem. Okay, now, I complained a lot but didn't offer any solutions. In my opinion, social media is the biggest problem. If women were limited in the amount of interactions with men, we would have a society like in the early 90s or 80s. Sure, trissels would still end up being alone, but normies only had to compete with the guys in their area. Chad mainly could approach girls on Friday and Saturday night and wouldn't have the ability to text with hundreds of girls simultaneously throughout the week. Sure, you could still end up in a loveless marriage. That's unavoidable from a biological standpoint, but my point is that social media has done way more damage than the switch from a traditional society to a modern society. You can also see this in the data. Back in the 90s there was a small percentage of men that never had sex, but then in the last couple of years it skyrocketed. It's because women get thousands of massages now. This is what destroyed dating, in my opinion. In the 90s life still was acceptable, in my opinion. Of course I am too young to know for sure, but from what we know the job market was alright despite women being in the workforce, standard of living was okay and men could get a Becky. Today everyone is in the gym, everyone is Luke-smaxing, and only the top percentage is successful. That's why in my opinion it is mainly caused by social media.